How you doing, everyone? Thank you for joining us today. We are live streaming this event, so I'm going to make sure that I keep my language nice and pleasant, but just to aware that there is a camera up there, and if you do speak, someone could be picking you up.
Sorry, just getting my paper. Just waiting for the minister to join us. It won't be a moment. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Louisa Partridge, and I'm the Queensland Node Manager of the Cybersecurity Innovation Node, based here in Brisbane, and welcome to the official launch of the Queensland Node. I would like to start with acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on, the Turrbal and Yurruga people. I wish to acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they are making to the life of this city and the region. I would also like to acknowledge and welcome other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be attending today's event. We have with us today some very distinguished guests, and I would like to warmly welcome Queensland State Minister for Tourism, Industry Development and Innovation and the Minister for Sport, Minister Sterling Hitchcliffe. I'm pretty sure I've seen Sarah Pearson, Dr. Sarah Pearson, the Deputy Director General, Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport, the Deputy Director of the Department of Communities, Housing and Digital Economy, Dallas Stower, the Chief Customer and Digital Officer, Department of Communities, Housing and Digital Economy, Chris Fechner, the Queensland Government Chief Information Security Officer, Rob Champion, Queensland Small Business Commissioner, Marie Adshed, and the Chief Executive Officer of Cyber, Michelle Price. Wow, how great is it to have an in-person event again? I'm so pleased to see everyone in person today. I originally booked the precinct as I was thinking a capacity of about 80 would be enough, but we completely exhausted that booking in 5 days. And that is a true testament to the cybersecurity ecosystem we have here in Queensland. I, for one, am so thankful for the partnership AusCyber has formed with Queensland Government. Otherwise, I wouldn't be standing here. And I'm excited to be the first node manager of this Queensland node. I had long admired the work AusCyber was doing in the industry and had a couple of talks to Michelle over the years about working with AusCyber in some capacity. So I was pretty happy when the announcement came out last year that we were opening 3 nodes here in Queensland, and I was finally able to take her up on that opportunity. After almost 16 years in the corporate cyber world, I wanted a role that I could truly affect change. And in the 7 months I have been doing this role, I have been blown away by the projects, programs, technology, and sheer effort of everyone here in Queensland. My challenge is how we bring everyone together to have a real impact and make a real change. There is so much opportunity for jobs and growth, for skills development, traineeships, and clear career pathways into cyber, for cyber uplift of our many thousands and thousands of SMEs, and to help the 40 or so sovereign cybersecurity startups that call Queensland home to grow and export their technology. I want to thank everyone who has reached out. I'm already working with so many of you on some great programs, and I can't wait to start sharing. Anyway, enough about me. I'd like to introduce our first distinguished guest. Our first guest joins us via video, and she is someone who has a history of breaking down barriers. She was one of only 2 female graduates in mechanical engineering at QUT, worked at power stations in Queensland, and became the first female and youngest plant engineer in Victoria. She brings her experience in engineering, industrial relations, and running her own business to her current role. Federal Minister for Industry, Science and Technology, Minister Karen Andrews. Unfortunately, was unable to attend by person, but she has sent the following video for us.
The Australian Government is proud to support AusCyber and its node network as part of the Australian Government's Industry Growth Centres initiative. It may be from a distance, but I send you my best wishes for your future success. You're involved in very important work, which is of great value to all of us. By protecting Australian businesses and institutions from cyber threats, you protect our national security. And such protection is central to the business confidence we need to expand the nation's cyber economy, which is growing rapidly. This confidence is needed to drive innovation and commercialisation and create the jobs we need for the future. As well as developing a more coordinated cyber industry community, nodes like these will create access to key export markets for Australian cybersecurity products and services. Cybersecurity is a big and growing industry, and experts will be in high demand across Australia and the world. In 2020, Australian cybersecurity providers generated $3.6 billion in revenue, with an additional $1.4 billion expected to be generated annually by 2024. 26,500 workers are currently employed in cybersecurity in Australia, with an additional 7,000 jobs expected to be created by 2024. These Queensland nodes will connect with the 6 other state and territory nodes around Australia to bolster the impact of AusCyber's national network. This is the sort of network Australia needs, with all involved working in the best interests of the nation. In these Queensland nodes and the others around Australia, you stand on the front line against malicious cyber threats. We thank you for your service, and I wish all staff and managers the very best in your endeavours.
Thank you, Minister Andrews. Queensland has led the way in supporting innovators in our economy and community, and our next distinguished guest is committed to backing our startups and researchers in emerging sectors and our established industries. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the Queensland Minister for Tourism, Industry Development and Innovation and the Minister for Sport, Minister Sterling Hinchliffe.
Thank you very much, Michelle, and if I too can acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this event is taking place, and pause to acknowledge that we have the great honour and opportunity to share this country of two of the world's oldest living cultures, and the knowledge and generations, thousands of generations of innovation that represents. And so I think it's important that we acknowledge that on an occasion like this. And also acknowledge all the the list of dignitaries that are here with us and those that are here with us in spirit, like the Federal Minister. And thank you for joining us for today's event. The reality is that with so many people working from home during the pandemic, with so many businesses pivoting their business to online services and sales, we've all become very keenly aware of the need for cybersecurity. It's even more critical for the high-tech industries such as defence and aviation and aerospace, medtech, fintech and advanced manufacturing, all of which demand highly connected digital infrastructure and all of which are highly security aware, and all industries that we want to see develop further here in Queensland. According to the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, over 160 cybercrime reports are made by Australians each and every day. The cost of cybercrime to the Australian economy is approximately $29 billion a year, or put it in another way, almost 2% of the nation's gross domestic product. In 2020, we saw some serious cyber attacks on the likes of BlueScope, MyBudget, Toll Group, Services New South Wales and Isentia. Costs to business include the loss of intellectual property, the costs of system downtime, reduced efficiency due to prolonged disruption, not to mention brand and reputational damage. The average cost of a cyber attack to a business in Australia is over $276,000 and takes on average about 23 days to resolve an attack. So this is clearly a huge impact on any business. So not surprisingly, the demand for increased vigilance over cybersecurity is high. Australia has spent around $5.6 billion on cybersecurity in 2020, with demand expected to reach some $7.6 billion worth in 2024. The sector currently employs around 26,500 Australians, and it's growing, about 6% each year. But a big issue that we have here in Australia is that companies, more often than not, source their cybersecurity from overseas. This means we have businesses that are missing out, and it also means we have a higher level of risk. We have to show that what we have here is better than what you can buy overseas, and what you can have here is going to be the solution to your problems. But I know that we have the talent to do that, and the quality of the people represented at today's event represents that. Former Cisco Regional Director Scott Reed, who now works at Riot Solutions, where he looks after cybersecurity for the Internet of Things solutions, and the person who I credit for explaining to me how all of this works. Jack Rees, who is the co-founder of Indigenous IT security firm Batum Solutions, which is working closely with the Queensland Government on bridging the gap for Indigenous people in the ICT sector. Also one of Australia's leading cybersecurity experts and an advisor to Interpol, Professor Ryan Coe from the University of Queensland. Queensland now joins New South Wales, South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania and the Australian Capital Territory in hosting a cyber node. The Brisbane node is one of 3 in the state, with the others in the Sunshine Coast. It's been going for a little while, and in Townsville. Queensland is the only state to have 3 node locations, an indication of how decentralised we are as a state, but also showing that regional areas like Townsville and the Sunshine Coast are proactively transforming themselves into digital economic powerhouses. And I'm pleased that they're doing that in great cooperation with the Queensland Government. All 3 nodes will work together with the aim of strengthening the industry across Queensland, supporting promising startups, growing our exports, attracting investment, and bridging the cybersecurity skills gap. All of this will boost our economy and provide much needed high value jobs for Queenslanders. The establishment of the 3 nodes is a result of a partnership between the Queensland Government through the Advanced Queensland Initiative, AusCyber and the Townsville and Sunshine Coast Councils. There is exciting innovation happening in our IT and cyber sector. We know there's real potential for Queensland IT businesses right across our state to export their products and services and to grow. Right now, there's cutting edge software and IT taking place here and the world needs it. That's why we're partnering with the federal government and councils in supporting this program. It's all about protecting and growing IT jobs. It's a real pleasure to be part of this opportunity to see the Brisbane Cyber Node officially launched today, but it's also a great pleasure to work with so many people right across the sector who see not only the opportunity that this initiative brings, but understand the broader implications of looking after our cybersecurity in the face of growing, expanding, and constantly evolving threats, both internal and external. It's vital that we continue to work together to develop our local capacity to respond to those threats and our capability to regenerate and develop a business opportunity and an economic opportunity off those threats themselves. While I am very regretful that another event has overtaken me today and means I can't stay for the rest of the program, I'm looking forward to hearing reports back on the way in which the panel address some of the key topics that are raised today. But thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this launch and allowing the Queensland Government to partner with the Australian Government and local governments and AusCyber to deliver a great outcome with this new node. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Hinchliffe, and thank you for coming out in the rain. Our final speaker is no stranger to any of us in this room, nor the cybersecurity sector. She has had a long history supporting and advocating cybersecurity from many prominent roles in federal government departments. She is the first person we think of as the Australian cybersecurity champion due to her commitment in advocating Australia's capability internationally and closer to home, and her passion for increasing the diversity in our workforce. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the Chief Executive Officer of AusCyber and my fabulous boss, Michelle Price.
Thanks, Lou, and good afternoon, everyone. I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout the land and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, culture and cyberspace. We pay our respect to their elders past, present and emerging, and it is so awesome to see them in the room in force. Welcome, guys. I'm so excited to be here today. I really, really am. I've been tweeting like crazy about it. That's what I was doing while the Minister was talking. So he's looking down at me and I'm actually kind of, had my head down. So I was tweeting like crazy. This set of node launches for us is incredibly special. Our national network of nodes that not only showcases amazing sovereign cybersecurity capability being developed and delivered right here, no matter where here is across the country. Part of why this is so special is exactly what the Minister did say. We always try to go one better at AusCyber because we do see that part of our role in building a world-class cybersecurity industry for this economy, whether this economy is our own economy right here in Brisbane, across this great state, across this amazing country, but also out into the world, is that sense of partnership and collaboration. We don't want to go out and complete our mission, not that it will ever be complete, I fear, it's in partnership and collaboration with others who are like-minded in how you genuinely can show a better way. And so here in Queensland, when we started to talk, it was quite a while ago, I have to admit, and not even because of COVID, quite a while ago, we started talking to the Queensland government about why cybersecurity could be such an opportunity. But yes, we do need to deal with and recognise that cybersecurity is an endeavour of humanity now because there are those that wish to do harm to us and they wish to do it in cyber-physical ways. But if we accept that that is a part of our lives now, as we are all things digital, then absolutely we can be advocating and championing the fact that lives can be improved through sovereign capability development in cybersecurity. And so in talking to Queensland about what that would look like, after a whole series of things in cybersecurity had already been started by the fantastic Advanced Queensland guys, we really did want to go one better. And so it was about showing that not only in a political environment, can we say, that might not work in favour of Queensland being the only jurisdiction in the country that has a genuine partnership, not just in words and not even just in action, but in delivery between federal, state, local governments, but we don't stop there, industry across multiple sectors. In fact, I don't think there's one industry that we're not actually engaging with in this state through our nodes. And also universities. Let's go even further and talk about students who wish to grow up in a world where they have amazing job opportunities. And again, a big shout out to Baden with some partnerships that we've done around cybersecurity scholarships and internships. And really, I'm just a champion of what they're already doing. Great, great opportunity to show what amazing looks like. And you can tell that I'm sort of picking up at them because, look at them, right? They're right there in all of their amazing shirts. But all of you in this room are here because you understand what collaboration means. And you understand that it's a new form of value in our economy that we've needed before we had this thing called a pandemic turn up on our doorstep. And I was saying to the Minister just before we came into the room, actually, that of course there are truly awful things that are going on in our world because of this pandemic. But there's also upside. It has shown that the world can see benefit. And in my language, as an economist and someone who cares about the way that the economy impacts our community, retained benefit, having all of the great activity that we're generating as a result of being able to defend our nation, defend our people, defend our way of life. We actually can be doing this at a global scale. And to be able to do that in the way that we're embodying that in Queensland, I love doing the federation thing, where we have to kind of play the federation game. If you're not a fan of Jimmy Reese, I strongly encourage you to watch his YouTube channel. There's already people in the room that know what I'm talking about. It's awesome. I was in South Australia last week and I spent quite a bit of time with the South Australian Premier. And he's like, where are you off to next week, Michelle? Well, Premier, I'm actually going to Queensland. Why are you going to Queensland? Because I'm launching our nodes there. Oh, yes, that's right. You've got local nodes there, don't you, with local councils? Yes, Minister. Yes, Premier, we do. It's like, how would I do that here? Now, you can see how you can leverage this as a way to actually get that networked effect, the collaboration piece, which is actually central to why AustCyber has merged with another great non-profit, Stone and Chalk. And we have someone from Stone and Chalk in the room today. Marianne, hello. It is an amazing situation where, if you think about this, what you are a part of is a situation where we are building capability. Sure, you can go to the UK, you can go to the US, you can go to China, you can go to Russia, and you can find forms of similar capability in those markets. Sure, you can. The meaning attached to that, though, the way in which we use this as a means to build community, build ecosystem, have impact on lives for good, you do not find this anywhere else in the world. And I've been to those places in the world, whether that's virtually or physically. I have definitely been to those places in the world. And this is what our strength is as a country. It is what galvanises us in the global economy, where it might feel like we're such a big player. Well, I assure you, friends, that we are not a big player. And Queensland's contribution to that is very significant. And we will not stop with just these 3 nodes. And the Minister and I were talking about how we start to tie together that effective a network and start to look how we can plug into and play that coordination role. And actually, the more important word here is orchestration role for the right outcomes across Northern Australia. That's a compelling story to be telling as well. So as I finish my remarks, I've got a couple of things here that are very, very important to note. Hands up if you remember when we did the soft launch of these nodes last year. Do you remember when? Oh, there's a couple of hands. Well done, you. You get the prize. It was actually in June last year. How much has COVID screwed up our sense of time? Back in June, in the midst of all of that crazy when we didn't know up from down, left from right, and we've had it good in Australia compared to so many other places in the world. It was back in June. And the team came to me and said, we've got all of the documents signed. I'm sitting there signing the, agreements and what have you. And the team was saying to me, so we'll probably end up launching in September. No. We're not going to launch in September. Everyone's just going, I want to launch now, because this is exactly the beacon that we need to show that just as the world is feeling like we're about to implode and the malicious actors are sitting there going, giddy up, this is the most amazing fun we've ever had of our lives. We've said, no, we're going to keep on moving. We're going to keep expanding, and we're going to keep on generating the kind of excitement that Australia knows how to generate. If it has to be a sport, let's make it a sport. The industry advisory group that we have guiding these nodes, and particularly here in Brisbane, and I'll say this again in Townsville on Wednesday, is awesome. It's a privilege to be working with the people that we have on the industry advisory group. And they are doing that out of their own free will. They're doing it because they are demonstrating how much passion they have, just like I do. I get accused of passion all the time. Bring it. I love being accused of being passionate. They are the kinds of people that do embody exactly why, again, all of you are here. So thank you to those members, and I look forward to growing that group with you over time. It's a great situation to be in when you have to start saying to people, 30 people on an advisory group, it's too big. So that's really cool. And so I think that, when we look at the dynamics of the industry here, and a lot of people outside of Queensland like to think that the only place that has any kind of concentration of anything, this is where I get back into the Federation again, but I know that happens inside the state as well, is in southeast Queensland. Some of the most exciting cyber innovations that are coming out of this country right now absolutely are coming from this part of the world. But they're also coming from places like Mount Isa. They're also coming from Longreach. They're also coming from Normantown. Now, who knows where that is? I happen to be related to the person that found that town. That's where I know what that is. But there are some amazing things going on in this state that if we can together make sure that we are focused on collaboration and partnership in a common mission to drive jobs, growth and meaning, then we get to the cyber defences, then absolutely the adversaries will never have it over us. So thank you for being part of today. It is actually quite historic. We're super proud and we're very excited to be working with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michelle. Now, one of the best things about having the Queensland node in the spotlight today is that we can talk Queensland and cyber for just a little bit longer. I'd like to invite some people I have been working with over the last couple of months up on stage, and we can talk through a few hot topics. So Rob Champion, Queensland Government Chief Information Security Officer. Marie Adshed, the Queensland Small Business Commissioner. Paul McCarty, the CTO and co-founder of Queensland-based cyber company SecureStack. And Michelle Price, the CEO of AusCyber. So Queensland is now on board, and as Michelle said, we did it with a bang, not opening just one, but 3 nodes. Now, unfortunately, Michelle's already answered the question that I had for her, so I might skip to Rob and start with Rob. Rob, what was the driver for Queensland Government to have that AusCyber node?
Is there a red button at the bottom?
Press the button. This is why we travel with Tom.
Here we go.
Yes.
Great. So, as Michelle indicated, been quite a long gestation period to get the AusCyber node here in Queensland. But one of the things that we wanted to bring to this was actually that very multi-party piece of cybersecurity for Queensland. It's not just about the southeast corner, as Michelle said. It's about all of the industries of Queensland having a strong and vibrant cybersecurity sector to depend on. And it was really important that we brought along the elements of government that had responsibilities for that. So areas including state development, areas such as small business and training, areas around the innovation and advanced Queensland agenda that's already been set. So this fitted very nicely into that, but bringing all of those pieces, getting all of those bits of the jigsaw together, it took a little bit of effort, but we've got there, and I think we've got there very well in the situation where we're not really focused on that southeast Queensland as the only outcome here. This is very much statewide, economy-wide view. Queensland's a bit different to the other states, and we do our things a little bit differently. So I think the participation of councils in Sunshine Coast and Townsville is really, really strong. And I think it actually also sends a message to citizens that they don't really care which level of government has responsibility for this, but they want to see us working together for their outcomes and their benefits. So that was really where we wanted to be with this.
Beautiful. Paul, when people hear you talk, they'll get why I'm asking you this question, but why did you choose Queensland as the base for your company?
So my wife is from the Gold Coast, so I really didn't have a whole lot to do with the decision, frankly, but I'm glad she made that decision. And honestly, we love being based on the Gold Coast, right? I'm growing the team there, and we're very excited about the fact that Queensland government is interested in innovation. We're actually one of the Ignite Ideas grantees. We received a grant in 2019, so we love that. Thank you, Queensland government. We appreciate it. We put it to great use. Now we'd like to sell it back into you. But
I know the man to talk to.
We're working on it.
Anne-Marie, what do you think are the benefits that Queensland offers to founders of cybersecurity companies in comparison to other states and territories?
Well, I'm not here as an expert of cyber. I'm just here to say my connection with the small business community is why I'm excited to be part of this conversation. So please forgive me. I'm probably going to say anything technical that comes out of my mouth, just ignore. Look, Queensland is an interesting place. We've got 445,000 small businesses, and I talk to them regularly. You're so right, Rob. Government is government when it comes to small business. But I ran a little test among the small business community just recently. Just spotted you there, Steph. Thanks for putting me in the tin for this. But I wanted to gauge the Queensland small business appetite for cyber awareness, cyber security, how cross they were about this issue. And it's absolutely changed. I was really surprised to see that 100% of the small businesses that opened that newsletter clicked on the site, I want to know more about cybersecurity tile. You could have knocked me over with a feather. That's why it's important in Queensland. We really care, the time is right, and we're ready to have this conversation.
Amazing. So in my role, I'm working with several, let's say 4 Queensland government departments, and one area of focus is around that cyber uplift of SMEs across all of Queensland, not just here in central, in the little southeast corner. Michelle, are you seeing this as a priority across all of Australia and in any areas in particular?
So I need to know. Okay, there we go. It's working now. Absolutely. 2.4 million small businesses in Australia out of what we think, and I say think because the ABN has a bit of a lag in it. The ABN register has a bit of a lag in it. I was on it myself last night. Around about 2.62 million businesses registered in Australia. And so, how about we do a bit of this? And so, awesome. We're problem solvers in the cybers. We all know there's a significant part of the economy, and particularly around new businesses in new industries, are driving the economy, but also driving jobs growth. And so, of course, it is very top of mind for regulators, in the American language, legislators. Sorry, Paul. And but also, it's actually top of mind for business as well. Because at the top end of town, as it's sort of colloquially referred to in Australia, and I know that we have some top end of town in the room, which is awesome. Top end of town relies on small end of town. Yeah. So the number one issue from a policymaker's perspective when it comes to small business is, of course, about supply chain risk. And the greatest vulnerability that we have in those 2.4 million registered businesses, and there's a whole heap of economic activity that's not registered, like it kind of is, but it's kind of not, that's called the gig economy, is actually cyber risk. So it's a topic that Rob and I love to spend time talking about, is about that risk piece. And so Big End of Town has a huge dependency on those 2.4 million people, businesses rather. And that's the culture of risk. Whether you ignore it, you engage with it, you transfer it, you try and zero it out, whatever it is that you're doing with risk, that's a huge dependency in this economy. And when it's all now digital, absolutely, it is top of mind for everyone across the country. But we see different manifestations of it happen in different jurisdictions. And that's where we start to get into the slightly different ways of doing business across different jurisdictions, which, by the way, is shaped by legislation.
Thanks, Michelle. Now, Marie, this is a tough one. I know we spoke about this earlier today, but with that rapid digitisation of many SMEs, specifically last year during COVID, and I've been having a lot of conversations with the Events Queensland team about secure by design. Any brainwaves that you've got on how we can shift that conversation from awareness, like it won't happen to me, to secure by design?
Yeah, we certainly, I think, need to move past the conversation, which is really, really scaring business, because that's not been working. It's never going to happen to my business, and it's never going to happen to anyone I know. That's the mentality that the small business community has certainly got. The fact that 100% of businesses opened that section on our newsletter really goes to show, though, that the interest is gaining. I think there's a couple of ways, and we had a bit of a chat about this earlier today, a couple of ways that we can tackle it. It's either you can't do business unless you have some sort of indication for your compliance with levels of cybersecurity tools and protections, or shifting the conversation as I think it needs to be. And Michelle, you were raising this one with me of cybersecurity is a growth opportunity for your business, and that's the other way I think you'll get businesses' attention, is how can I, by doing these things, which, 6 months ago you could have asked a small business, they'd rather stick a hot poker in their eye than have this conversation. It's absolutely shifting. How can that be a growth opportunity for my business? Well, now you've got my attention. This is not a compliance exercise anymore. This is just like getting up in the morning and putting on a seatbelt and driving, to work. That's where I think we'll start to get their attention. So is it a growth opportunity in my business, not a compliance exercise? Or is it the only way that I can participate in the supply chain with these particular customers by demonstrating that I've got that capability and those skills on board and the protection in place, so that I don't expose everyone else in my supply chain as the weakest link?
Yeah, no, that's great. Paul, are you being approached by many SMEs for advice or help at the moment?
We are, and the reason we're being approached is because we're talking about digital transformation and the cyber risk in a way that they can approach. So the average Australian spends 3 hours a day on their phone. That's software. The thing that's pinning all this together, this digital transformation, is in fact software, right? One of our most recent customers is actually a plumbing supply company, right? And you think at the face of it, why would they be using our software, our application security software? Well, the reality is when they took a look at their business, right, they realized that a disproportionate amount of revenue came in from these digital channels. And the thing is, they're not alone. If you really think about it, auto mechanics and banks and all these things that used to be about simple interactions with people are now being driven with software. And that's something that up until now, we haven't really addressed as a business, first a risk, and now, as Marie says, is something that can actually help us stand out, right? Address those supply chain issues like solar winds, which is obviously a huge thing right now.
Amazing. And Rob, is Queensland government doing anything or taking a different approach to help the many thousands of SMEs with their cybersecurity?
Yeah, definitely. There's a range of activities both that we've got planned under the Advanced Queensland initiatives and other components, but in partnership with AusCyber, we see that cybersecurity is really the enabler for a lot of those businesses. So particularly defence industries is one area, particularly focused in the north and the west, around west of Brisbane, around those defence opportunities. To get those actual contracts, they have to be able to demonstrate their credentials to defence to supply into there. So it's a real key enabler. Other areas really around advanced manufacturing. There's elements of how do we get the skills into the right places to support those sorts of industries. I think there'll be more and more come out of the woodwork as we go, but those are the priorities at this stage. And I think what we'll see is the pattern can be played time and time again across all industries because they'll all need these skills.
Yeah, actually, I'm excited. We got approached by Beef 2021. I don't know if anyone's heard of Beef 2021 in Rocky, but Scott and I are going up in May to present to farmers and producers. So we're trying to come up with a really simple way to educate them on cybersecurity. But that agri-tech and agribusiness is an area I'm really excited to get into. AusCyber released this fantastic report late last year called Australia's Cybersecurity Sector Competitiveness Plan. And in that report, we mentioned that we have 26,500 workers employed in the cybersecurity sector in Australia, and around 3,600 of those are here in Queensland. But we know that the demand for cyber skills is growing year on year. And as our 40 plus cyber startups here in Queensland continue to grow, corporate and government employers continue to need to hire skilled workers. The question begs answering, where are we going to get all of these skilled workers from? Topic of always a question out there. Michelle, has anyone got it right yet, state-wise?
That's a loaded question. Well, the short answer is no, but the good news is that everybody wants to get it done. And I think there is a very strong recognition, no matter where I traverse, and this is obviously not just a challenge here in Australia, but globally. And I can see Michael in the audience hiding just over there. Michael from Asset Note knows all too well that, of course, globally, there is a massive debate within our industry around whether or not there actually is a talent shortage or not. Is it a talent shortage, or is it the fact that we're not using the tools right to solve some of these problems? Awesome debate to be having, right? But when I speak to organisations that need to hire either through contracting partners or having an in-house capability, on the ground every single day, I'm getting asked by businesses across all sectors of the economy that they need access to trusted, skilled people. So that tells me that we do have a shortage of people. Now, as the economy matures into a situation where we can have a much more sophisticated relationship between the tools and the people, I think we'll probably even out. But that's also when we come to a situation of trust. How much are we trusting the tools? How much are we trusting the people? And we'll find a natural equilibrium there. But the point is that today, at least in Australia, and also in New Zealand, and also in our part of the world, so the Pacific and Southeast Asia, there just isn't a maturity level where people understand what tools they need, how they work, how they need to continue to evolve, how to keep them secure, and so on and so on. And so the default still is people. And I actually think that's not such a bad thing, because the more people that we have skilled and the more people that we have who want to learn and understand what this world is about, they'll actually understand their world better, and the tools will get better as a result. At the moment, most of the tools that we're dealing with, particularly the ones that are offered from the big end of town, they're generalist tools. They're not specific tools, and they're tools that can't be adapted necessarily to the contextual nature of each of your businesses or organisations. And we cannot continue to pretend that each of these organisations that you all work in, whether you're running them yourself or you're an employee of a business, they are not the same as the one next door, or the one next door to that, or the one next door to that. And a lot of the tools that we have at the moment cannot be adapted, but you're paying for them as though they can be. That's the honest truth. And so I think the skills issue should be something of a national focus, because every single job in this economy today needs cyber skilling. Every single job. It does not matter if you are a garbage truck driver. It does not matter if you're a lifeguard. It does not matter if you are someone who is working in the Australian Signals Directorate that is defending the country against a great country to the north. Every single job needs some understanding of cybersecurity. Yeah? Every single job. But that's not how we're gearing it. So our influence in this space is absolutely to make sure that there is that awareness and understanding, and to think, goodness gracious, that's the biggest opportunity of our lifetime, to make sure that we're educating the whole economy around what their accountabilities are and how we can all be soldiers in this war, because absolutely it is a war. But as much as it's a war, it's a huge social impact opportunity.
Thanks, Michelle. Now, Rob, I know I've been talking with you and Shelley about some of the upskilling and cross-skilling that you're doing in an effort to find some more skilled workers. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think from our point of view, there's a recognition that there is a shortage of skills. That's not necessarily always about the deep technical skills, but it's also about how we apply those skills to the breadth of the business. It will also be, we're in that early stages of cybersecurity as an industry, where we're growing the number of staff that are doing things. So quite often cybersecurity professionals will have multiple hats. They'll wear an incident responder hat, a configuration hat, a GRC hat, a cyber educator hat. Those roles will get split apart, and we'll need to have career paths for all of those people. One of the things we're doing at the moment is we've partnered with TAFE Queensland to put the current current public servants through a program in the Cert 4 in cybersecurity. We ran this in 2019 with an initial cohort where we had 17 graduates of that. They bring their existing understanding of government, their existing understanding of the workplace, the maturity that they have, and we can turn their existing knowledge and skills and augment that with cybersecurity, either to cross-skill into a role in cybersecurity or to be more cybersecurity aware in the role that they're doing today. And as Michelle sort of said, there'll be parts of those roles in all industries. So we need doctors that understand cybersecurity, we need engineers that understand cybersecurity, we need business people and accountants and lawyers. Everyone needs to understand cybersecurity. So I think there's lots of opportunities to partner in this space. But it will also be growing that career path that kids in the schools see cybersecurity as a really viable and exciting career that will take them potentially all around the world. We've got a great opportunity to export skills to the rest of the world, obviously meeting our own need, but there's jobs and the ability to really step up. Michelle said earlier that Queensland and Australia, punch above their weight for this stuff. So, we can continue on that path. We've already done it.
And Paul, how are you tackling this issue when it comes to hiring? I know we were talking about it earlier. You're trying to grow your business. How are you handling this?
Yeah, so hiring and finding the right skill set is like cyber. It's a multi-layered approach, right? It really is. And some of those layers are being creative, right? Being opportunistic, right? Not necessarily looking for that deep tech stack, as Rob points out, but looking for passion and drive. We've partnered with TAFE as well, with Boomer TAFE, and we've actually interned, I want to say 10-ish, and some of those people are in the audience today. We've interned roughly 10 people out of Boomer TAFE, hired more than half of them, right? And also we're doing the same thing with Griffith right now. But I think frankly, it's about being creative, right? And sometimes things like sponsoring visas, which is also something that we do, right? I'm an immigrant. Most of the people, Ben's an immigrant. Most of the people on our staff came here, and that's part of what makes Australia awesome, right? So it's a multi-tiered approach. It really, really is.
Awesome. AusCyber recently launched AU Cyberscape, Australia's first national cybersecurity digital ecosystem. So this is our website here. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about AU Cyberscape? It's brand new.
I sure can. So AU Cyberscape was actually idea number 3 at AustCyber. The first one being our national network of nodes. And if you go back in the very far passages of time, in the 2016 National Cybersecurity Strategy, that's what started AustCyber, was the national network of nodes. But this was idea number 3. Idea number 2 was to hire me. Idea number 3 was to do a national directory. But actually we wanted to make sure again that we were showing a better way. So how do you turn a directory? So there's loads of directories in technology. You know those maps of all of the logos, yeah? What does that actually tell you? Well, if you're in the industry, you go, I've got to now try and keep up with 10,000 more competitors. And if you're a buyer, you're just like, whoa, that's so noisy. Who do I trust on that map? And then you've got to go do your research and all of that kind of stuff. So AU Cyberscape from the get-go was all about being able to be a point of awareness and education for the industry itself, for buyers and investors. And sure, because in cybersecurity, we're all a little bit distrustful of how you use information. Absolutely, of course, there's an element here that everyone can see what we're doing. Yeah? But there's a whole bunch of soft power, soft deterrence that happens with that. And of course, there's of the secret, the super secret stuff is not on there. But what it is showing is that, again, Australia is using, because, we will it so, Australia is using our geography to its advantage, that you can have local capability. And guess what? AU Cyberscape not only takes you through that geography, but also takes you through the capability types that are mapped into the globally recognised capability types, not brought to you by Gartner, and also takes you through, if you're really excited by what you see here, takes you through how you can get in contact with these companies. And if you're somebody who is already in the workforce and thinks, I'd love a tech change instead of a tree change or sea change, and I want to get into cyber, or I'm in school of any level, how do I get into cyber? Then you can also, as we can see there, have a look and see what it's all about. So it's actually a digital ecosystem. And so if you look up the definition of a digital ecosystem, the Japanese actually coined the phrase, of course, in Japanese, which I can't say. I think you can, Lou.
Yeah, I haven't heard you say it, so.
I'm not going to embarrass myself. But digital ecosystem, of course, is where people come together in a digital way to have experiences. And so it doesn't matter where you sit in the Australian community, whether that's a business community, a startup community, a school community, a home community, you can now engage in proudly Australian cybersecurity technologies, as well as careers, as well as investors, as well as buyers, and all of those things. So it did take us a little bit of time to cook AU Cyberscape, but just like Queensland with our nodes here, it's a much better product as a result. And of course, within 24 hours of us launching AU Cyberscape, we've had a whole bunch of countries within the region say, can you please do one for us too? Which is awesome.
That's amazing. So Rob, as someone who's sometimes overwhelmed by vendor meetings and requests, can you tell us a little bit about how you're going to leverage AU Cyberscape?
Yeah, I think one of the pieces for us is really getting the right products in front of the right problems. The cost of sale for small business and startups is actually quite high. Government is not the easiest place to sell to. It's not the easiest place to buy in either. So, we put lots of process and rigor in there to really address a whole bunch of problems that were traditional procurement problems. Cybersecurity is quite different. It's very fast, it's very agile. There's also a lot of innovation and new technology coming in. So getting those new ideas in front of those stakeholders in agencies. I think AU Cyberscape is a really good step forward to be able to promote those businesses that are local. And there's a bunch that I've come across, even that Louisa has introduced me to, that is really Queensland-based companies that maybe haven't sold to government in the past or don't have a profile with government. And I think I can then definitely drive that message into agencies where they can focus their energy rather than trying to be across all different parts of government. So that, I think it's a really good initiative. I think the educational piece and bringing professionals into this as well, the education streams, all of the partners in the ecosystem in one place is a really good step forward.
Yeah, the learn part was actually new for me when we launched. I hadn't learned too much about it, but I've been talking to Stuart about career pathways and what we can do. So I'm looking forward to padding some of that content out with you, Stuart. Paul, I see you're up on here as Tom was scrolling through.
I saw myself too as well.
Yeah. Do you think this is going to help you grow and develop your business?
For sure.
Yeah.
And we said this earlier too when we were having coffee, that we need to do a better job as an industry of spruiking ourselves, right? Because we have some really amazing, badass technology built right here in Queensland, right here in Australia. So this is a great way for us to spruik ourselves. And I look at it that way. But I also look at it as a way of finding ways to collaborate with other cyber startups, right? And this is a big thing. This is one of the core things about SecureStack. We've already been involved in several of the cyber collaboration projects. You know, we generate a lot of data at SecureStack, and we know some of that data would be really advantageous for other startups, right? We want to be able to talk to them, find them, and this is a great way to do that. So
That's
thank you.
awesome.
Cheers. Oh, and by the way, it scores really well on Bloodhound too as well.
Good.
I want to say it was like an 80.
So Marie, as an advocate for small business, right now we're cyber focused, but eventually do you see this being helpful for other emerging technologies?
The cyber map.
Yeah.
Look, I think the thing with small business is that it's knowing who they trust in terms of getting advice and information, and peers are their number one source of trusted information, rightly or wrongly. I know that this because the tax office did a study some years ago on where those trusted lines of communication and sources of information flow, and peers was number one, and the tax office was number last. So, but now they're giving out money. I don't know. I think things have changed. Yeah, their stock's increasing. But I think that's the trick. Is you mentioned the word trust before, Michelle. It's trust. Who to trust? It's a really easy space for businesses, particularly small businesses, and lots of these are micros and sole traders, to get ripped off, hoodwinked, completely confused, and every single, for every great story, there's someone who will line up and say, oh, you should see the business next door to me. My God, let me tell you about their experience. So we've really got to work on building that trust. And if this is one way to deliver that, then I think that's really important. Businesses want to be able to just get the job done, tell me what I need, give it to me quickly and get me protected and sorted, and I can get on with cutting hair and straightening teeth and doing all the other things that I need to be doing as a small business.
Michelle?
Yeah, it would be remiss of me to not also point out with AU Cyberscape, just like Circuit Board City, if you're part of Cyber Week last year, everything that you see is 100% Australian. So it is built with 100% Australian tech, and it's secured by 100% Australian cybersecurity. So it's actually showcasing all of that stuff at the same time, yeah? And so that's again about that trust quotient at the same time as being able to deliver great world-class technology. It's a strategic partnership, in fact, with AIG, I always get this right, Insurance Australia Group, because I always just go AIG, and in my local part of the world, that's NRMA. But IAG, as a provider of cyber insurance, you might think, why did we do a strategic partnership with them for this? Well, again, for small business, of course, they've got no interest in trying to sell to any of the companies that are going to list themselves in this digital ecosystem. What they do have an interest in is becoming a trusted provider of an area of insurance in the economy that is most misunderstood. And to be able to have a conversation with people about that in a local context. So again, really important to me and to everyone at AusCyber that and also more broadly to Stone and Chalk, that we continue to use these opportunities to leverage every opportunity that we have to be able to showcase but drive that trust forward in changing the nature of the conversation that we have about all of these different elements of how we now need to live our lives. And cyber insurance is becoming very, very important in that. And not just because of the digital side, but actually because of the cyber physical side of our lives.
Thanks, Michelle. So last question, and I'm going to keep it short and sharp, team, because you're keeping everyone from some nice cool refreshments. So how can the Queensland node, obviously in partnership with our regional nodes, truly impact the growing cybersecurity ecosystem and economic opportunities that come from all the regions across our state?
Can you ask that again?
What do you think the one big thing we could do in this node, working with our other nodes? What's the one big thing?
Honestly, I think, again, it's about spruiking, using that network to spruik ourselves and to help small business, SMEs, and large enterprise here in Australia understand that there is sovereign capability here in Australia that is better than some of that stuff you buy from other places, right? Genuinely. And let's start doing that, because that makes all of us better, right? That makes all of us better.
Marie?
Well, the interest is there. They want to learn and they want to understand more, which is the first I've seen that the appetite's so high. So we've got our chance. Let's not blow it. Let's give the messages nice and simple. Do not overwhelm. Do not sell all the fancy stuff when you don't need all the fancy stuff. Keep the messaging really, really simple and clear, and you'll get their attention, and they'll come on you. They'll come on the journey with you guys. But we just need to keep it in really good, everyday, clear language. Good.
Rob?
Yeah, I think the big thing here is collaboration, bringing together all of the parties, focusing it in one area. We're not competitors to each other. I think this is a very symbiotic relationship. Everyone's a consumer of a whole bunch of services that would be improved if their cybersecurity was lifted and their hygiene was lifted. This cyber crime is really the competitor here. It's the, what do we say, 26 billion or something a year worth of prosperity that's being stolen out of our country. So whatever we can do together to reduce that number goes towards our quality of life. So what we can do is also then take that out to the world. There shouldn't really be anywhere to hide for cybercrime. So if Australia could be on the forefront of that, that'd be awesome.
Here. Awesome answers, everyone. Okay, so I've got to dial it up now, don't I?
I feel like I should be taking notes.
Yeah, take notes. Okay. If we can get this done in Queensland, we can punch on with the other states. If we're punching on with the other states, then of course, actually as a nation, we're doing better. And if we can get this done for cybersecurity, we have no idea what's coming at us when we're in a quantum-enabled world, right? So we need to use this opportunity now to actually demonstrate that, yeah, complex tech stuff is complex and techy, but it does not need to be scary. And it does not need to remove the innovation and the opportunity and the excitement. And let's make damn sure that all of those real proper edge technologies that are coming down the path, actual AI, for the techies in the audience, they know what I'm talking about, and quantum, AI and quantum together in space, it's a thing, is secure by design, because security is valued. That is the challenge that I place on us, like no pressure, but actually that is on all of us. Yeah, because this world is changing. It is changing at such a rapid rate of knots, but we shouldn't be scared. We should be so excited, like so excited, because this stuff is cool, but we've got to make sure that we get on top of that advantage before the adversaries do.
Thanks, Michelle. I took all those down. Well, we could go on for a long time, but I know after months of limited socialising, you're probably dying to network and connect with people that you may not have seen in a long time. So let me thank my incredible panel for taking the time to share their thoughts today.
And thank you, Lou.
So that concludes the formalities of the launch, and I'm pleased to say that my work and the work of the other two nodes here in Queensland really does start now, and I'm pretty sure I got the tougher gig because I don't live next to the ocean like they do. But thank you to our distinguished guests, and a big thank you to the Queensland cybersecurity community. I invite you to head out to the terrace now and enjoy some beverages.
Thank you.